In today's video, I'm going to be taking a look back at the Apple IIc I worked on prior. If you recall in that video, I reverted the logic board back to the original one it had shipped with, and with that, the problems it had prior too. As you can see here in the video, there's definitely glitches and artifacts that all point to bad RAM. Luckily, they still make the RAM, and I got it today in the mail from Jameco. So let's put it in. Stay tuned. Thanks for watching, and if you like seeing me try to fix these old computers, please consider subscribing. Now, in today's video, I got the RAM, and I also have a known good floppy drive, because that was another issue we were having where the floppy wouldn't read after I switched all the parts out. So we're going to test that as well. So let's get the RAM out here. Now, the great thing about this is they still make brand new RAM. I don't know if it's new old stock or if it is actually commercially made still today. Nonetheless, it's very convenient that you can get this stuff still. I ordered brand new Samsung RAM. It's the 4164-120. You can find it on Jameco. It's about $3 per SIM, and I ordered 16 of them, so we're going to just replace every single one in there. I do want to find out which particular chip is bad first, just so I know what is bad, and then I can save the rest as spares. Now, I'm going to take this apart, and I'm going to actually take some advice that I found on the comment section of the last video. Based on what I read in the comments, the guy said he used to work for an Apple repair shop, and he said the drop method is how they were told to open these things. So you open up the handle like this with the screws removed. Am I missing something here? Hey, there we go. Took a little finagling, but it came out. Nothing else broke, so that's a good sign. The first thing I'm going to check, as far as the floppy drive goes, is that I put the cable on correctly. And this is the known good one. I didn't touch the cable, and it does line up the same. So that's not the issue there. So I'm going to take out this floppy, remove the disk from it, put that over there. I'm going to install the good floppy real quick. And I'm going to power it up quickly. I'm just going to jump cut to when the computer's on so you can see the screen. All right, so let's turn it on and take a look at this. Now, as you see here, there's a whole bunch of garbage, and none of that's any good. So I'm going to go ahead and do what's called the piggyback method, and I'm going to take a known good chip and just place it on each one and see if there's a difference. You're going to want to be careful here that you put the RAM on in the same orientation as it is on the board. There's a little notch showing you where pin 1 is, and that's how you want to put it on. You want to be careful that you're not shorting the pins because it'll easily slip right between two of them. So with me holding it down here solid, I'm going to turn it on, and I'm still seeing garbage. So let's go to the next chip. Still got garbage. Now I noticed when I put it on the 6th chip here, it is giving me some extra garbage. So there might be something wrong with that chip. So there's definitely something funky going on in the RAM there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove it, and I'm just going to put new chips on completely. The piggyback method doesn't always tell you if it's a good or bad chip. It's about 50-50. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this apart, and we'll get that board off. So after a little further research, I am going to take the board out. It looks like that disk drive error is a common problem with the RAM. So on what I was reading in some forums is that a lot of people think that the problem is with their floppy disk drive or the IWM chip, internal WAS machine, and the whole time it's just the RAM not addressing the data properly and just telling you to check your disk drive. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to swap out all that RAM, and then if it still doesn't work, then I'll troubleshoot other stuff. But let's start there because I'm going to be replacing it anyways. Now that the board's out, I'm going to take a little magnifying scope, and I'm just going to check all the pinouts. Looking for the obvious cold solder joints, solder blobs, anything that doesn't look factory or anything that may have just cracked over time. So everything on the backside looks good. Now I did notice when I look real close to some of these chips that it looked like rust at first underneath the sockets. It turns out it's just flux that was left behind from manufacturing. There's also a little bit of corrosion on some of these chips, so I'm going to take these out, clean them up real good, and then put some deoxit in those sockets, and hopefully that'll take care of any other problems that there might be. The other thing I'm going to do after I do this repair is I'm going to completely scrub this board down, hot soapy water, and give it an alcohol bath and a real good dry. I believe a lot of this, I think a lot of this is just, grime that's been in here forever. You get dust on stuff, dust collects moisture, moisture creates corrosion, and that's how these end up dying. After so many years sitting in somebody's garage, when they put it, in the attic or the garage or wherever, it was working just fine, and then 20 years later, now you got this little bit of corrosion started. So I'm going to show an easy way to get the chips out that if you don't have a solder sucker, you've got 256 pins here you got to take out, and it's going to take a while. So if you use some hot air, you can get a hot air station on Amazon pretty cheap. So a little bit of hot air, and then slightly pry up with some tweezers, and you should be good. Then you just follow up, put the new chip in right after that, and then once you get everything in, just touch it up with an actual soldering tip, and you'll be good. And there you go, easy as that. I didn't put any unnecessary heat anywhere else on the board. You don't want to use a tip that's too big either, so you want to get in there, pull the chip out, and you're good to go. So let's set that chip aside and get another one in place. So just do a quick sanity check. Ooh, that is warm. Do a quick sanity check on your pins. I want to make sure everything fits right. All right, so I did notice I'm going to want this off the mat a little bit, and I happen to have this little drive tray from a G3. So that gives me a couple millimeters, and I should be able to get this new chip right in place. So now that I got the pins lined up, let's try again. Okay, there we go. Little trial in there, but I got it. So looking at the work I did here, there's definitely a couple blobs, basically because when you're just pushing through hole, I'm not using any flux or anything like that, so I'm going to hit this again and fix all of that with a soldering iron, but this is a quick, easy way to get them out, get them back in. So I'm going to go ahead and take the rest of them out before I put any new ones in. Okay, now that I got all the RAM chips out, I'm going to do a quick visual inspection, make sure I didn't damage anything, make sure there's no solder blobs where they don't need to be, stuff like that. So just a quickie. Now there is a certain smell to this board that smells like antique store or old comic books, grandma's attic. It smells just musty and old. So heating up all that 40 years of dust really brought no factory smell to my senses. So I got all the memory completely replaced using that method. Now, the one downside of the method is it leaves a mess on the back side of the board. You can see here there's a bunch of little solder balls that just kind of pushed out from all the little pinholes. And I'm going to go down to my workbench and just do a quick touch-up on all these and bring it right back. I'm not going to bother recording that because I'd have to move lighting, cameras, all that stuff, so I'll be right back. And I'm back. You might notice a different shirt and a little more scruff on my face. It's the next day. I went down to the bench and I reflowed all 256 pins on that board, and I realized it was after midnight and I had to go to work the next morning. So I put everything away and I resumed filming just now. I got it reassembled. All the old memory is right there and a little bit down there now, but that's all garbage. I am going to hook this up to the computer and we'll see how I did. Okay, so I've got everything put together. I've got the composite out going to the composite in the laptop. I've got the handle doing its job, keeping airflow underneath the case. Not that it gets that hot, but the manual does say to use it. So let's get it turned on and go from there. First thing you notice is that there's no more gobbledygook all over the screen, no artifacts. It's actually booting off a floppy disk. And if you're familiar with this, I'm loading PETSCII Robots. It's a great game. It's new, relatively new, but it's not 30 years old. So that is something that I recommend everyone go out and get. It's very cheap. It's worth every penny. The sound works. That's a good sign. So let's turn it up a little bit there, and yeah, that's clean. The sound is great. Let's turn that down so I can talk. Everything is working great. The disc works. It's got the original logic board that this thing shipped with from '83. At least that's the date on the board. The one I have waiting for the new case coming from MacFX is ready to go. I've got all the spare parts. And when that case gets here, hopefully sometime this summer, I'm going to make a video of everything as quickly as possible because I am very excited to get that. This whole thing started out looking like a pile of trash, and for about 40 some dollars of memory chips, I've got it all working good as new again. And these are the old MT chips, I believe Micron technology. Micron is good now. Now in 1983, I don't know if this was bargain bin or they were pushing these out too fast, and there was just none of these really last. So it's good to see getting new life out of an old machine like this on the cheap. It took minimal skill. You do have to know a little bit about soldering, but there's plenty of YouTube videos out there how to learn that. You can get cheap gear on Amazon. This airflow thing I think was like 40-50 bucks. I don't think it was that much. It does a great job for what it is. And yeah, it saved me a lot of time instead of trying to use a solder sucker on this one at a time. Like I said, there's 256 pins on the back of that board I had to touch up. And that would have taken forever if it weren't for the air gun. I recommend anyone out there that's got a little bit of skill or wants to learn, go out there, get some junk boards, practice, and hone your skill. And when you're ready, you can take your old machines that you might find at a Goodwill, doubtful anymore, it's getting pretty slim pickings there, yard sales, grandma's attic, whatever you find this stuff, make it live. Do the best you can with it, and if you can't do it, find somebody that can. There's plenty of people out there. I hope my videos can be informative for you if you are trying to figure out what you have to do with your own. I didn't know going into this that the floppy drive was dead because of the memory. I knew they're connected, but I didn't realize it wouldn't even work at all. That's crazy, but that's how computers worked back then. They were very memory dependent because they only had 128K. They didn't, like everything else on a new computer, has its own little computer in it practically. The GPU, CPU, even subsets of your motherboard are entire computers compared to what this thing was back in the day. So it's really something of nostalgia, of keeping the old machines alive that I just love, and I really hope you do too. So if you do like this type of content, please consider subscribing, send it to your friends, share it, like it, comment, all that stuff boosts the algorithm, gets the channel views, and I am excited to keep going with this project and projects like this. So if you want to see more, let me know what you want to see and we can go from there. I have a lot more machines to go through and I'll bring them all to you. Thank you very much. Take care.